God has no religion. And I need you to understand this. That there is a temptation for us Christians to believe that God is the God of Christians alone. Yeah. There is a temptation for us to believe that God is the God of Christians alone. God has no religion. That's what I came to let you understand, that He is the God of everybody, the God of everyone, which is why the book of Matthew, chapter number 5, verse 44 to 45, Jesus speaking to the church of His days said to them, "But I say unto you, love your neighbors," or the word enemies based on your translations. Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for they that despitefully use you and persecute you. Here's the reason: that ye may be the children of your Father. So the parameter of becoming God's child or His children are the things Jesus enumerated in verse 44. He said that you may become the children of your Father which is in heaven, for He maketh His sun, not your son, not the son, but His son, S-U-N, to rise on the evil, not the evil one. I want you to take emphasis, because this is rare scriptures. To rise on the evil and on the good. Then he added, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust. Now, you will understand that what Jesus is saying here is different from what the church is practicing. If we will become non-negotiably the children of God, then there is a principle. Of course, that is what we want to study today, so that you understand. You know, a lot of us Christians are made to believe and to think that our primary reason and perhaps our major reason and essence while we are on earth is to fight evil. I don't know how I'm feeling saying this right now. To fight evil. Whereas in Isaiah chapter 45 and verse 7, God said, I form the light and I create darkness. So what is darkness in your definition of convenience? What's darkness? You know, we talk about the children of light and the children of darkness. So what is darkness? We call people agents of darkness. Now the question is, what is darkness? Holistically as a word, he said, I formed light and I create darkness. So darkness is part of God's creation. I'd like us to establish that premise before we forge ahead. Darkness is part of God's creation. Then he further said, I make peace and create evil. Okay, I'd like you to pause and ponder over that just in a jiffy. I make peace and I create evil. Who is talking? He said, I, the Lord, do these things. The word these are in plural. I, the Lord, do these things. Now let me bring you back. Look at the word I, personal pronoun. I created darkness, and I, personal pronoun, formed the light. Then he further said, I make peace, personal, and I create evil. Then he said to you, I, the Lord, do these things. Like I said, About a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to us on how to activate the evil side of God. And then we had a little fest where I took my time to explain to them that the God we are serving, of course, that's what I'm going to do before we go into today's topic. God has no religion. Like I did say a few weeks ago, I made us to understand that God has his own evil side because he created the trees of the knowledge of good and of evil. Yeah. This is the hard truths, but the crystal truths and an ideal truth. God does have an evil side. In the same way, you will hear somebody say, don't dare that. Even to his or her loved one, if you try it, you will see the beast in me. He created you in his image, and what makes you think that the one that you are an embodiment of his image does not have the other side of him? He asked this question in Isaiah 55 verse 8 and 9. He said, what do you think of me? A too gentle God? Am I a God that is too caring? Am I a God that is too loving? Then in case you don't know, my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. Then he gave you the parameter with which you should imagine the distance. He said, as heavens are higher than the earth, so are my thoughts than your thoughts, and your ways far from my ways. Now, the God that told you this is rather letting you know that there's so much of him you are yet to come to discover. He is trying to let you understand that this aspect of him is amount to nothing compared to who he is. When you want to look at the effulgence of what made him sovereign God. Let me digress a little bit to let us understand what I'm trying to explain to you. God is not gender biased. Why? Because in him is the male and in him is the female. So in him is the good and in him is the evil. You recall that in a conglomerate of gathering where God wanted to deal with a king called King Ahab. In the scripture, there was a gathering of the spirits. As they gathered, God was asking, who shall I send? Who will I send on this errand to deal with Ahab, since his cup was filled? Spirits sampled themselves. It got to a point that God was so dissatisfied that there was none qualified. Suddenly, a spirit rose, told God, let me go and destroy Ahab. And he asked him how. He said, I will become a lying spirit to his prophets, those who are on his payroll, to tell him what his itching ear clinged for and not what the thus said the Lord is. And God looked at the spirit and said, you will carry out the assignment good. So I release you to go. That is a God I'm trying to explain to you. This same loving God. He has no gender. Why? Because in him is the male and in him is the female. Yeah. In him, as it were, in traits, is the good and in him is the evil. Job understood this part of God. When you read the book of Job 12 verse 16, he said that with him is strength and with him is wisdom. So when it comes to something that strength is needed, he is all powerful, the omnipotent. And when it comes to the things that wisdom is needed or required, he's omniscient, he's all-knowing. Then part B of that verse 16 says that both the deceiver and the deceived, they are his. How do you explain such God? He said, I own the deceiver and I own the one that deceived him. So sometimes when you play deception in church, thinking you are doing the pastor without knowing that he's a dealing with God, he also assigned a deceiver to deceive you, his evil side. An instance is when you come out to make pledge before men and they rap ovation, give you an applause. And at the end of the day, 1, 2, 3 weeks, 1 year, you have not remitted. But in the eyes of men, you pledged. God considered that as a deceit. And before you know it, in a business trade, you also assign a deceiver to deceive you, because you deceived him, as it were, in a way. Which is why Ecclesiastes 5 told you that when you make a pledge, defer not to pay it. Do not postpone. He said, do not let your mouth lead you to temptation, wherein you will say that it was a mistake. He said, whereas God will see this and will fight the works of your hand. This is the point where God becomes your opponent. He becomes your prayer point. That when men and powers chase you, you run to him. But this time around, he's the one chasing you. So who do you run to? That is a part of him no one prays to experience.